So I am really, really excited that we have these next two gentlemen here. They are extraordinary filmmakers, and I think is a testament to how extraordinary they are. The reason that they are first on the poster but second appearing is because they were literally down to the last minute for editing their film, which we'll go into some detail. But I'd like to introduce the directors of Paradise Lost 3: Purgatory, Bruce Sinofsky and Joe Berlinger.
Hello.
So there's your mics.
Do we hold the mics?
Yes, you hold them. Unless you want to lean, that's your call. Okay. So just how.
I'm Joe.
Yeah, this is Joe. That's Bruce.
I'm Bruce.
Okay. So let's try to put this in perspective. You literally just finished the re-edit of Paradise Lost 3. When did you when is it? Is it done? Is it done?
Well, we locked late last night. We haven't done the final mix or the final color correct, but we're going to do that next week. But we should say, really, the body of the film hasn't changed. It's really because of the extraordinary events of August 19th, we had to add a new ending. So instead of it being another dark, ambiguous film from Berlinger and Sinofsky, it now has a happy ending.
I don't want to repeat the obvious, but does everybody know what happened on August 19th? Yes? Yes? No? Why can you give the
Go ahead, Jack.
short version?
Well, basically, the West Memphis Three were released from prison on August 19th. In basically, even though I say it's a happy ending, it's actually a very bittersweet conclusion, because in order to get out of prison, they used a rarely deployed legal mechanism called an Alford plea. And basically, because the state of Arkansas was afraid of getting sued and afraid of all the political fallout, the only way they would let these guys get out of prison is if they did what's called an Alford plea, in which you basically, for legal purposes, you plead guilty to lesser charges, but you still maintain your innocence. And so they were sentenced to time served, and they were released from prison. So it's great that they're out of prison. And obviously Eccles was on death row, so that death sentence was vacated, and now they're free men, but they are convicted criminals. And because we believe, of course, as do tens of thousands of other people, that this was a wrongful conviction, it's tragic that they have to walk out of prison as convicted killers instead of being fully exonerated.
So when did you find out that this plea was even a possibility?
We actually, on the 17th in the afternoon, we got a phone call telling us to be there in Jonesboro, Arkansas on Friday. So we flew out Thursday, landed, had a nice dinner, and got to see one of the greatest things ever, to see these three guys together for the first time really in 18 years. And then we got to share a party in Memphis and seeing these guys talking, laughing, enjoying each other. It was great. It's one of the 5 kids I've had, 1 good marriage, and this is the top for me. It's really great.
I mean, we were literally, though, the irony of this is we were literally in the mix finishing the film that's showing in Toronto tomorrow. We were mixing and doing the final touches when we got this phone call. And Paradise Lost 3 has been in production since 2004. So, after 7 years of finally coming to the finish line.
Is it really that long?
Yeah, we started in 2004. So when we finally got to the finish line, and we were like, "Wow, this is a good film," we got the phone call.
So you really had no idea, though, before that. It was just like a day and a half before the actual event. That's when you found out there was no.
Well, this whole thing came together very quickly. Within a week, an idea was floated to the state attorney general's office. They latched onto it, and a deal was quickly negotiated. And we have been told that part of the reason is that they were very concerned about Paradise Lost 3 coming out, which was scheduled for November. And they were also very concerned about a evidentiary hearing, which was going to happen in December, in which all this new evidence was going to be presented. And everyone just decided, instead of another 3 or 4 years of the legal process dragging on with a new trial, let's just get these guys out of prison. But it's a shame that the state of Arkansas didn't have the courage to like say, hey, we made a mistake, you know?
So with this being planned to be on HBO in November, the evidentiary hearing in...
We actually
gonna
pushed
be
it,
in
because of the
January.
results, we pushed it to January.
Okay, but it originally was planned to be in November, right?
Originally it was going to be November.
My question is, though, was that timing because you wanted to also have it close to the evidentiary hearing?
Yeah, we've tried for 18 years and the 3 films to get these guys out of jail. It's been important to both of us. And we felt that they'd put some pressure on the folks in Arkansas. I mean, they made a terrible mistake in '94, and this is their way of sort of walking away with it without too much egg on their face, because the incompetence of the police and the negligence of the Attorney General's office, you know, we did well. I mean, we didn't realize when we went down there in '93 that this was going to happen. But the film really, really helped to bring together a lot of people, celebrities, regular folk, and it's one of the best feelings I've ever had to think that we had something to do with these 3 men getting their freedom back.
And you know, interestingly, as in terms of like a filmmaker's journey, the thing that's I think the most interesting for us is that when we went down to make the first film, we weren't on some mission to right a great wrong. We were storytellers who were told a story by sent a story by Sheila Nevins at HBO about these. It was a local news clipping that had been picked up by the New York Times, and the way the press was spinning the story was that these guys were definitely guilty. And so we were going down, we thought, to make like a real-life River's Edge, a film about, disaffected youth, about how rotten 3 kids could be to kill 3 8-year-olds. And so, we went down thinking we were going to, do a study of, this kind of horrible crime. And once we got into it, like 1 + 1 was not equaling 2. The evidence was, the local chief of police, said on a scale of 1 to 10, the case is an 11. To us, it was like a -1. I mean, the evidence was flimsy and circumstantial. And then when we finally met and interviewed the West Memphis 3, we looked at each other and said, this is not a film about devil worshippers. This is a miscarriage of justice. So to think that it's taken 3 films in 18 years and that we started off on a completely different mission, a lot of people are patting us on the back saying, hey, great. But, the reality is, we went down to make a film and we stuck with it, but I think it's the countless, tens of thousands of people. I mean, this film inspired so many people from all walks of life to just, the real heroes are the selfless people who really devoted all this time to getting these guys out, I mean, we made films, which is cool, but, these guys donated money, spent time, made it a mission,
The subtitle of your film obviously is Purgatory. Do you feel like this project is still in a kind of purgatory because of the Alford plea, or do you feel like there's like a sense of closure?
Oh, it's purgatory. I mean, yes, they're free, and nothing's better in the world than Damien Eccles seeing the sunshine. But it's not fair that they can't live a normal life. They have to be so aware that anything that they do can be used against them. They're on parole, and it's for a long time. It's not, that everything in their life is peachy keen. It's still difficult, and it's not fair. If Arkansas had some guts and some balls, they would have just exonerated them, and they haven't. And until that's happening, it is purgatory. They always.
And the other large issue of what's in Purgatory is the real killer walks free. The real killer or killers. And by the state of Arkansas saying, hey, we're going to close this case. These are the guilty guys, even though they're doing it with a wink and they know I believe they know that they're innocent. They're not looking for the real killers. And 2 of the 3 victims' families, long before this Alford plea, came to the conclusion that the West Memphis 3 are innocent. So, God, I can't imagine being the parent of a victim. But if I was a parent of a victim and my state was telling me they're not going to look for the real killer anymore, I would be pretty upset about it. It's an unresolved tragedy.
Well, I know Peter Jackson at one point was funding the research to try to exonerate them. Is that still going on to try to find the real killer? Are they still working on that?
I believe Peter is still trying to find the real killer. It's hard, God bless him if he does. This case is an enigma wrapped in an enigma, and that's one of the troubling aspects of it. It's just, was this horrible crime, it's hard to figure out what happened.
The sad part is that these 3 8-year-old boys are dead, and the 3 that were in jail didn't do it. So what value does Arkansas put on the lives of these, what would be obviously in their 20s now, but by just saying, oh, we know who did it, even though they pleaded guilty, those guys are innocent. So what does it say about those, those 3 8-year-old boys? It's criminal what the state is doing now.
Sheila Nevins has said that she thinks that there's a Paradise Lost 4 to be done. What are your feelings about that?
Well, look, in this day and age, in this economy, we would be silly to turn our backs on Sheila Nevins, who we should also give a lot of credit for. I mean, Sheila, this was originally Sheila's idea. She has stuck with 3 films over 18 years, 3 films that have taken a long time to make. We never once felt the pressure of, you got to get it done for this, or you got to do this. The first film was 2.5 hours long. To get 2.5 hours and a very nice budget that kept growing because we kept realizing it's a bigger film, to get 2.5 hours out of them for the first film and almost 2.5 for the second. And this film has been in production since 2004, and we were never pressured to bring it to a conclusion. I mean, she's been a fantastic partner. So if she feels that there is a film to be made, obviously we're gonna look into it. However, I will say that these films have been a part of basically almost our entire career. We started off with Brothers Keeper in '92, but started shooting Paradise Lost 1 in '93. And so, I met my wife right around this time. I've had my children during this period. I've gone from being a 29-year-old guy to almost 50. It just feels like it's the end of an era, now that they're out of prison. So emotionally, it feels like it's over. But hey, we'll certainly look into it.
4 is a nice number,
Nice even number. Are you going to do any kind of theatrical run for this, so for Oscar consideration?
There is the qualifying run that we'll do, and then we actually have carved out a unique deal with HBO to do a post-broadcast theatrical release. So we'll have a smaller qualifying run in the fall, imminently. But then after a period, we hope to do a theatrical release. In part, we want to help raise money for these guys now that they're out and make sure that their lives are looked after.
Well, actually, how are they doing? How are the West Memphis 3 doing with their freedom?
I talked to Jesse yesterday to arrange him to come to New York for the film festival there. He's doing okay. He's looking for work. He's not living at home, which is good because there's a lot of pressure at home. Drinking problems and things like that, and that's the last thing he needs. Jason, we had breakfast with the day after they got out.
His second breakfast. It's a funny story. We saw him in the morning, and we invited him in to have breakfast with us. And I said, oh man, it's just such an honor to have your first free breakfast as a free man with you. You know, it was just us. And he said, well, actually, I woke up at 3 in the morning because he was staying at we were all staying at the Madison Hotel in Memphis. He said, well, actually, I woke up at 3 in the morning and I walked to Denny's and had breakfast by myself. So it's my second free breakfast.
And while we were having breakfast with him, he asked if it was okay if he said grace. And he thanked all the people that helped. I mean, it was, you know, I was a little verklempt, you know. So it was a beautiful thing. And then he went swimming for the first time in 18 years.
We went to Walgreens to buy him a bathing suit, and they didn't have any. So our sound man, Eddie O'Connor, gave Jason Baldwin a bathing suit so he could swim in the hotel.
And what about Damien? How's he doing?
He's doing great. I mean, you know, we can't say where he is or who's taking care of him, but he's you know, for him it's a huge, you know, not to take away from the other two, but I mean, Damien Eccles has to learn how to walk again because his feet were shackled almost 24/7. He hasn't had sunlight on him for about 8 years. He stood on the balcony of a friend's house where he was staying, and during Hurricane Irene, obviously that means he was on the East Coast, and just stood letting the rain pelt him because he said that he hadn't had rain upon his body in the last 20 years. So, I mean, the guy has a lot of adjusting to do, but, you know, his wife, Laurie Davis, which is another great story of this series of films, you know, Laurie Davis is his wife, tirelessly fighting for his release over the last 14 years, but she met him. She was a New York architect who went to the second screening ever of Paradise Lost at New Directors, New Films at the Museum of Modern Art. It had premiered at Sundance in January of '96, and in March of '96, the second venue was the Museum of Modern Art for New Directors, New Films. And she saw the film there and reluctantly went. A friend dragged her, she said, because she read the description and was like, oh, I don't want to go to that kind of a film. She went, and just like a lightning bolt hit her, and she followed up with Damien, wrote him letters, went down to visit him. They fell in love, got married on death row, and she has been fighting. She's the real unsung hero. Or, well, she will be sung in Paradise Lost 3, but up till now, she's been the real unsung hero of kind of this story.
Joe and I are also matchmakers, if anybody's interested.
Yeah, pretty good track record so far. So to be clear, the film that you'll be showing in Toronto is I guess what is now considered the original version of Paradise Lost 3, and the, I suppose, final version will be shown at the New York Film Festival.
Yes.
Okay. So, you know, have you given any thought to like how you'll be dealing with the two different versions? Do you feel like they both kind of stand on their own, that they're of a pair? I mean, I don't know how much has changed, obviously, between the two.
Well, I mean, I think the way we'll deal with the first version is to throw it away and move on. This big, you know, but the only.
But you should come and see it here.
No, I'm teasing. No, really, there's no. I mean, Paradise Lost. What we wanted to do with Paradise Lost 3, and I still feel it's extremely valid, in fact, even more so, is to make it a self-sufficient viewing experience. And so it tells the entire story from beginning to end, but it does it in such a way that I think is very unique, because we reached into all of our outtakes, and we retell old information, with a new perspective, because information changes over time, which is a fascinating thing to think about, and with outtake footage that has never been seen before. So if you've never seen Paradise Lost 1 or 2, Paradise Lost 3, which in many ways is a bit of a misnomer, is a completely self-sufficient experience. It begins on the day the kids went missing, and the old version ends with the hope of the evidentiary hearing that was scheduled for December, and now the new version ends with them getting out of prison, which is obviously a much better ending. But if you know Paradise Lost 1 and 2, you're not going to be bored, because there's all sorts of new spins on old information, and you're seeing all new old footage, if you know what I'm saying, old outtake footage. So it kind of, it's a nice balance.
We spent 6 months, Joe and I, on our old Steenbeck that we cut Brother's Keeper on in the city, and rescreened every frame of the first shooting from 93, 94. So it was really fascinating to get back to linear cutting on a Steenbeck and supplying that to our editor, Elise Spiegel, who did a remarkable job on it. But it was really nice to touch film again. I really missed it. I really did.
And you'll see, I mean, it's interesting that a lot of the film has old work print, old 16 millimeter work print has been resurrected with, I mean, some people will think, oh, well, maybe you scratched it up for affect or whatever, but it's the work print that we cut the original film on, and it's got scratches, and we
and it's got grease pencil.
And we felt that the negative was too brittle to deal with, so we just went from the work print, and it's got this naturally aged look to the old footage. I don't know, I think it's cool.
It is cool. I think we got time for just a couple of questions. Hang on.
Questions from the audience.
Hi, Suzanne Askoff, Screen International. Joe, I've talked to you before about Crude, and I'm just curious to know your take on, it seems you make movies, you make documentaries that very directly affect people's lives. Is this intentional, or is that one of those things that just sort of ends up that way for you?
Whether it's intentional that we make films that touch people's lives?
That actually affect, really change people's lives.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I've taken a little bit of a journey. 20 years ago, I would have said to you, hey, we're storytellers first, journalists second, and I'm interested in the art of cinema, and I don't care if this has an impact on people. But I think my view has evolved in part because I see what things can do, you know, and Crude, I think, had a tremendous impact, both negative and positive, because I got sued and they got a hold of my footage, you know, so sometimes it's not always positive, but, and as I said, the first film, I think Bruce and I were on a mission to tell a great story, not to get somebody out of prison, but by the time that experience ended, we realized that, no, we have a mission now, and I think it's evolved, and I feel like movies and documentaries can have a tremendous impact. And for me, even, you know, we've had younger filmmakers come up to us and say, hey, you know, I became a filmmaker because of Paradise Lost. Or, you know, Morgan Spurlock says that, you know, Brothers Keeper made him want to be a filmmaker. So to me, that's as valid an impact on somebody's life as the larger sweeps of history. But yeah, I mean, look, documentary filmmaking is under tremendous assault in this country, and, well, our country and this country. You know, a handful of corporations own the major media. It's harder and harder to make films. People like me have gotten sued by corporations. You know, so I think it's the art of documentary making is more important than ever, and it's, you know, and it can definitely impact people's lives.
Joe, Bruce, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.